So let me start once again by saying good morning to our cherished viewers. You see, we live in a political environment that had placed a higher, let me say, a higher standard, particularly on appointees of President Mahama. And I can appreciate the reason for this higher standard. If you look at where we are coming from, the 8 years of decay, among others, the ordinary Ghanaian has a higher expectation of all of us appointees of President Mahama. The other thing that President Mahama has also done is the opportunity given to we very young people to serve in his government. So in fact, overall, if you look at the ministers and the chief executive officers and deputy chief executive, almost 70% of us are persons who are less than 50 years of age. And so it's a great honor. It's a great privilege and honor for us to serve under the leadership of President Mahama. Unfortunately, on Saturday, like you pointed out, we have a good friend, Pastor or Prophet Niger Gezi. So Niger Gezi lost the dad the 1 week we had to. But I went to Ambassador Sampiale's 1 week as well. So it was then that, as it were, my good brother, Sammy, met this Patricia, the prophetess.
Yeah, Agradaa.
Good. And in the conversation, you know, Agradaa has always had this issue with Owusu Bempah. So he admonished that, look, there's the need for peace. That's all. And then, subsequently, what happened next? Thankfully, my brother, immediately this matter was drawn to his attention. Less than 24 hours, has publicly come out to apologize to the good people of this country, that he acknowledges the fact that this thing had rubbed not properly with the sensibilities of Ghanaians. And to the extent that this had come to his attention, he's not going to justify what has happened. So he had rendered unqualified apology to the good people of this country, and also His Excellency the President. I strongly believe that that is the way to go. There's a typical saying in Ewe that the man who carries the pot to the riverside is most likely the person to break it. And you know, usually when you know, in the village, when you go to the riverside, it's always slippery because people, you know, fetch water and they get the place muddy and slippery. I think that the lesson for all of us, including my good self on this platform, is the fact that the standard that will be judged is a very higher standard. And so it requires that we will be sensitive to our environment and the things that happen around us. It's unfortunate it happened. My brother has demonstrated the maturity that is required by apologizing to the good people of this country, and also His Excellency the President. I'm just reading on CTFM that the Chief of Staff has equally summoned my brother. I would say that with a statement issued by my good friend and brother Sammy Gyamfi, it will bring, with respect, finality to this raging stop. It becomes a lesson to all of us. So, I mean, that's based. I have read an online publication by someone, so the Code of Conduct launched by the President, this particular thing offenses. If you read, in fact, I have taken the Code of Conduct as a Bible. Immediately it came out, I had a copy like a Bible in my on my phone, so I can easily be going through it as a guide. Basically, what the Code of Conduct does is that for ministers, deputy ministers, CEOs, deputy CEOs, we have the responsibility on gifts. And usually it's about you receiving. The code is silent on you giving. And from the interaction on the video, it was rather Sammy who offered, because they, you know, So the issue about a violation of the code with respect doesn't arise, because the code is completely silent on the issue of you giving. It's about you receiving. And so I would humbly plead that this morning, on behalf of my good friend, and incidentally I happen to be his lawyer as well, with sackcloth and ashes, we once again apologize for this indiscretion and hope that it will not happen again. As young people, I can only ask that the good people of Ghana will forgive us for this misstep. We will not justify it at all. Yes.
As a prelude to that code of conduct, the president did say that the appointee shouldn't act with opulence and should be very much measured in the way they act. And so in relation to the subject matter, whether receiving gift or you giving. But let me just introduce Dr. Tutubuahin. Good morning, and thank you for coming as well.
Yeah.
We're grateful.
And good morning to my colleagues.
So the question is now, it's about the optics, right?
So let me wish your lovely viewers a good morning again. My professor friend here, a good morning. Always a pleasure to be in his company. But I must say how proud I am with the team that I'm part of. As in this, it's not always that you go on TV or radio that you leave having learned something. And I think TV has done with this solid
composition.
Here, yeah, I always
we're grateful
here,
that you honor our invitation.
I always leave here having learned something. Well, for me, you see, to be honest with you, my biggest takeaway from what has happened basically concerns the reaction of Ghanaians. And for me, I think it's very positive in the sense that we've been crying out for the right political culture that's participatory in nature, political culture that will hold leadership accountable. Because really, and I think I was having a discussion with my brother here. Ordinarily, or if somebody is giving somebody a gift, and I think the amount involved was about 800. Well, that's what Agradaa is saying. You understand? As in, depending on where you stand, you can say that Sammy is generous. You understand? But the people of the uproar stems from the fact that people are wondering that in the midst of the difficulties that we are going through, and a young man can have what's called $800 to share. I think no consideration has been had as to his work he's doing. But for me, the biggest positive for me is the willingness of Ghanaians to participate in this democratic agenda and their readiness to hold political leadership accountable. Also, my second takeaway is Sammy's reaction, which is, in my view, is fantastic, and it sets an example as to how people in political leadership ought to behave. It's not just about the optics, you understand? Because we are building, or our focus is to build a system that will guarantee for us the rule of law. And we cannot succeed in that effort unless collectively as a people we build a political culture that will hold political leadership accountable. And that will also mean that people who have the privilege to lead us will recognize that they are accountable to us. And so where people in a bid to create that culture ask questions or interrogate their behavior, no matter how seemingly small those behaviors are, that our politicians will recognize that because they are using powers that belongs to us, then they must apologize. You understand? And I think I'm very happy with the way the people have acted. I must commend, but I must also commend what's called Sammy Gyamfi for his unqualified apology, and also the leadership of the NDC. Because you see, like we say in law, that justice must not only be done; it must manifestly be seen to to be done. In the same vein, our commitment to holding leadership accountable and subjecting yourselves to that accountability must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done. So I think over the course of the weekend, what has happened the government has taken full opportunity of seeing to show their unalloyed commitment to enhancing the right political culture, and I think our democracy will be the better for it. Because at the end of the day, the people of Ghana have told leadership that we are going to hold you to a very, very, very high standards, and the government has also told us that, listen, we are ready to use the powers you gave us to create a government or a government that reflects the principles of probity and accountability. Now, I need to add that in this country, we play politics with everything. But I'm also a bit surprised that people want to compare this with the Honorable Agradaa PAA saga. They are very different, as in the circumstances are very different, and we must not play politics, in my view, with everything. I think that for me, and I say the biggest take, my take, what I take home with what has happened is the indication that the people of Ghana have given to our politicians. And listen, right now we are not going to play games. Yeah. We are going to hold you to an extremely high standard. If we see you dashing $100, we are going to question you.
So it means that now the standards for the ordinary Ghanaian for those in public office is very
because if you read literature on how you sustain democracy, I think it is beyond contestation that you can only sustain your democracy if you have a citizenry that participates in the democratic effort. Understand? And our role is to hold people we granted our powers to accountable. And that's exactly the indication that people of Ghana have given to our politicians now. And I said another very massive positive is the reaction of Sammy Gyamfi. And I must commend him for how he's reacted. And I hope that he and everybody who has been granted the privilege of using the powers we have granted them will understand that they must not depart from the purpose of those powers, that is, to serve the interests of the people of this country.
Dr. Tutu Bwai,